Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the RV Connects podcast. It's been a long time, but we're so excited to be back with episode 46 and the official start of season 3. We're so thrilled you're joining us, and it's your support and engaged listenership that's gotten us this far, so we certainly appreciate it. If you're new here, and we hope some of you are, welcome. As always, I'm Melina, and that over there is Dan.
Hello.
And we are the RV Canucks, a roving band of Canadian part-time RVers who travel far on our vacations from work and show you how easy it can be. So before we dive into today's episode, do we owe the people a bit of an explanation on our, 4-month hiatus?
I think we do, because they've been incredibly patient and very supportive. It's been a long 4 months. We've had some illnesses in the family. There's been some career transitions. We're in the midst of career transitions. We've been busy with hockey and school and lockdowns, and quite frankly, I think we just, for our own sanity, something had to give a little bit, and we needed to push this off. But we've been talking about it for weeks now, that we really need to get back at this, and it is good to be back behind the microphone. We even had a few giggles and smiles as we got set up here, as we try to remember how all this stuff works.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the first episode. So if things are a little rusty, we ask for some patience. I would say the Coles Notes version of that story is we were kind of burnt out. And the good news is we're back at it. Everybody is in great health in the family now. And we are ready to get roaring on season 3. So today we actually have a really great episode. If you're all caught up on our episodes to date, we last left off at Banff and Lake Louise, which was part of our RV Connects epic road trip of 2021. So today we're continuing north, and we're going to be talking about the Icefields Parkway and Jasper, Alberta. Okay, so after we had completed our magical trip to Banff and Lake Louise, we took the Icefields Parkway 288 kilometers over to Jasper. That drive took, 3.5, 4 hours probably?
Yeah, and we weren't pushing it. Like, it was a nice, relaxing drive.
Yeah, it was a nice, relaxing drive. We did want to check in. The kids were exhausted because I think we were all still in a post-recovery phase from doing the Tea House Challenge. So everyone was tired. So I would say I probably would have liked to maybe stop a little more and do some of the scenic lookouts. But at that point, we're also catering to teenage sensibilities and trying very hard to make them not hate camping and road trips. So, when they really wanted to get there, it was like, you know what, we're fine driving and looking at the sites, but there are an absolute ton of lookouts on the Icefields Parkway where you can stop and pull off and have a picnic and take photos. So I would just recommend for anybody doing that trip, hey, if you want it to take 6 hours, no problem. Just definitely take your time. There's a lot of great, beautiful, stunning scenery that's unlike anything even up to from Calgary to Banff. It just the scenery changes so much.
Yeah, I think anybody can do the drive with basic skill level. There is a few tight turns and stuff, but nothing that you need to be afraid of. But with all that being said, I mention it because I just found it to be one of the more relaxing drives. Honestly, I really enjoyed that part of the road trip.
Yeah, I think one caveat to that is the shoulder season, right? Like, you're still going to have, avalanche issues and road closures in those shoulder seasons. So to travel the Icefields Parkway, you have to have either a valid Parks Canada pass or you need to pay the toll at the toll booth. We did have the Parks Canada pass from our time in Banff National Park. And if you need a refresh on that process and purchasing that park pass, I suggest you go listen to the episode on Banff where we detail that. So fuel.
Yeah. So if you're going to drive from Banff to Jasper, make sure you fuel up in Banff before you hit the road, because there's only one place to fuel up, and that's at the Saskatchewan River crossing. During peak months, there might be delays at the pump. The prices might be higher, and of course now it's 2022 and goodness knows what the price of gas is going to be if you get to make that trip now. It's roughly halfway between Banff and Jasper, but if you want to make your trip easier, just fuel up in Banff and then make the drive to Jasper. And obviously if you're coming from Jasper to Banff, fuel up in Jasper first, because you can make the entire run likely on one tank of gas.
Mm-hmm. That being said, we still did stop at the Saskatchewan River Crossing Resort because it also has, a gift shop, a motel, a diner. So we did stop for some food and snacks, I believe, on the way there, but I don't think we fueled up at that time. So one note I want to make is on connectivity. So there's actually no cell towers in Banff and Jasper National Park wilderness areas. So there's virtually no cell signal. Plan accordingly. Bring paper maps, pre-download your maps. You can download a trip planner from icefieldsparkway.com that's got great information, but it's actually just a really great time to just like shut your phone off and, drink in the scenery and play word games with the kids and just look out the window and just kind of, drink it all in. And one thing I will say about that is there's a great website called getyourguide.com. And they have a fantastic Icefields Parkway smartphone driving tour. So it's $8.49 Canadian. You download it onto your phone so you can listen to it without cell coverage. And you basically just play it over your car. And it's like a narrated drive that takes you all the way from Banff to Jasper, or, the other way around. There's an alternate version as well that just points out all of the history, all of the points, everything about, the railway and the settlers and all of the history of the area. So it's a fantastic listen to just kind of like while away the hours and just really pay attention to the landmarks that are around you. So one of the most spectacular lookouts is the Goats and Glaciers lookout. And I actually made a point of writing this down on my phone as we were driving by, or putting it in my notes. It's a great spot overlooking the Athabasca River and the Fryatt mountain range to the west. It's just north of Sunwapta Falls Rocky Mountain Lodge. So there's marked signs and a parking lot where you can park. Apparently sunrise is the best time to visit this lookout because the light first hits those mountain ranges. So it's absolutely just stunning, but it's a great place to catch the Milky Way in April and May if you're there in the evening. But I would say that's probably a must-see lookout on the drive between Banff and Jasper.
Yeah, so where to stay? So there's the campgrounds within Jasper National Park, or Wabasso, Wapiti, and Whistler. And those are all the closest to Jasper,
like the
town
Jasper
proper.
town, yeah,
town proper. So we stayed at Wabasso, which I really enjoyed that park. Did you want to talk about your first impressions of it?
Yeah, I think, Wabasso and Whistler's campground, first of all, can accommodate longer trailers. But the vast majority of the parks, both like these three close to Jasper and the rest of the parks in the national park along the Icefields Parkway, can only accommodate up to 24 feet. So really do your research before you get there, because certainly in high seasons, even the sites that can accommodate larger trailers, there's not a ton of them. Whistler's is the new one, and it's very open. There's not a lot of trees. It's just kind of like park your big rig, and it's a good home base to see Jasper. But I would recommend Wabasso because there is a little more tree cover. It's a little more kind of wildernessy, if you will. However, it was very clear when we got there that there had been a recent fire or a series of fires that have just kind of ripped through the campground. So it took a lot of the tree cover away.
Yeah, there's not a ton of privacy there, but it's not because they designed the park to have the campsites right on top of each other. It's because of that fire. But I don't think we ever really felt like somebody was spying on us at the same time. But I really enjoyed that park. It's got a real wilderness feel. There's great trails in the area. There's a river not far. Well, it really borders the edge of the campground, and it's really easy to walk to. Nice morning stroll. I went on that several times. You can see people getting ready to go whitewater rafting, so that's really nice. Bathrooms are clean. It's 15-20 minutes from the town of Jasper, so if you've got to scoot into town and get something, it's not too far away. And for a cheapskate like me, it's got free firewood. You just kind of back up to the pile and take it away. So just by way of observation, we were there the middle to second half of August, and just looking around at the campgrounds around Jasper, there was certainly lots of availability to get a site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing I definitely liked about Wabasso is it reminded me of like camping when I was a kid in British Columbia. And that was probably the first campsite we've certainly been to in all of our travels that just gave me that kind of like proper wilderness. Like I use air quotes because we are still, car camping and glamping, but just gave you that true like Parks Canada, very natural environment, in terms of amenities. It's very stripped down. It's very bare. The high focus is on, trail walking and relaxing. And there's not a lot of, amphitheaters like you see in Ontario parks where they have a ton of park rangers doing programs for kids. Like it's just, I'm sure they do that. And I'm sure they do that more in non-COVID times, but it's a different vibe altogether. And one that I really appreciate for its just kind of naturalness.
You get people that are camping. You get people that are driving across the country like us. You get people that are doing it by motorcycle. Really, it's a completely different flavor than going camping at an Ontario provincial park from Friday to Sunday.
Mm-hmm, totally. And on that note, let's talk about amenities a little bit, because there are no showers at Wabasso Campground. So you can use Whistler's Campground, which is just maybe 5 minutes up the road. So Wabasso is on 93A. So 93 kind of splits off, and that's where Wabasso Campground is, just off the main highway. But then just shortly north on the road, it meets 93 again, and that's where Whistler's and Wapiti Campground is. So you can use the showers at Whistler's Campground, or if you drive the 15 minutes into Jasper, there is a place called the Snow Dome Coffee Shop in Jasper, which is a coffee shop / laundromat / shower house. So they actually have personal shower rooms that you can rent.
Yep. So when we did our laundry actually in a basement laundromat office supply store combo that I took one of the girls in there, and we kind of stumbled across it by accident trying to find a public washroom for them. And so we ended up going back there to do the laundry.
Yeah, it's called 3 Sheets, and it's a great way to I guess boost your passion project, which was office supplies, which was neat, and having a laundromat in the office supply store. But the reason we went there is because Snow Dome was actually closed.
And when I say office supplies, I'm not talking Staples. I'm talking
like fancy calligraphy sets and all that kind of stuff.
Maybe almost office supplies and art stuff. But anyways, it was really cool and really neat and really, really friendly. So I'd recommend going there.
Mm-hmm. So the dump station also at Wabasso is really tight. It takes two-way traffic because you can enter from both sides of the loop. They have fresh water and the dumping stations kind of at the same location, and they're not very well laid out. Obviously, they have to work with the natural terrain, but I did find that it was a really tight fit, especially with the length of our trailer at 29 feet. To get around it after was a little bit tight. So there is another option. There's an alternate dump station on 93A North, just south of Highway 16. So you can try there if that's busy, because I imagine long weekends, busy parts of the summer, there'll be quite the lineup for the dump station.
Yep, absolutely. So let's talk about the town a little bit. The town of Jasper is really laid back and it's unpretentious. And I dare say, when you talked about the fact that you can get a shower and do your laundry at the same place, I suspect it's a bit of a jumping off point to the wilderness to a degree. Mm-hmm. Like you're not at the edge of civilization, but there's definitely a long stretch to the next city, especially if you're going west. And I really like that feel. I
would say that's a fair assessment. Like if I were to put it into words, I would say like Banff is like Instagram central. And I mean, that's ironic because we have an Instagram account, but we're not like Instagrammers. I think we all know what I mean when I say like it's an Instagrammer's paradise in Banff. And Jasper is like plaid shirts, great coffee, and a warm hug. Like it's a totally different vibe. It's like the difference between somewhere like Pismo Beach in California as a surf town versus somewhere like Venice or Santa Monica, where it's all showy. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like a true laid back town. Yeah.
And they're both really great. I love both of them. And I'd really struggle if I only had a week which one to go to. Mm-hmm. But I really love Jasper.
Yeah.
For that. Like it is a really diverse mix of things to see, things to do, diversity of shops, all of that kind of stuff.
And with all of that being said, there is that caveat because it is kind of in the middle of nowhere that things are very expensive. Gas, food, etc. So for example, a 36 flat of bottles of water was $20 in the store, and like a bag of just Lay's potato chips was $5. So, not that those are staples, but those are kind of staples for us.
Come on, let's not lie to the people. We have a bag of chips in there every day of the week.
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, so things are relatively more expensive in a town like Jasper. But, as long as you come prepared, you can kind of plan around it.
Yeah, very walkable town. I would note that all the shops are pretty unique. There's something different in most of the shops, a lot of private proprietors. And so when you walk into one shop, you see something different in the next shop and so on and so forth. And that maybe wasn't quite the case in Banff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was less like touristy type shops.
Yeah, and outdoor supplies like, tents and water filtration. And I think I picked up bear spray while we were there. So there's something for everybody. I will note there's a great hardware store there. I can't remember what I had to go in there and buy, but it was at the end of the day. I remember it was really small because the lady didn't even want to charge me for it. But it was one of those things that we were just glad to have. So, hey, there's a great hardware store. The town is really kind of centered in its layout around the train station and the railway. Mm-hmm. right? Because let's be honest, this place is founded as much on resources as it is tourism, and that's really cool. Did you want to talk about the train station?
Yeah, I just thought the train station was another just a really good example of kind of like the heyday of rail travel. There's some great exhibits in there. There's a little cafe and coffee shop in there. A lot of history, a lot of plaques that you can learn from, and just a gorgeous building itself. And then kitty corner to that, right across the street, is the Tourism Information Center, which is also fantastic. Also attached to the train station are some great public washrooms, and we had a fantastic conversation with one of the Parks Canada employees who was waiting outside for her colleague to finish cleaning the bathroom when we were waiting to use it, and just had a great conversation about their college program and having people employed for the summer. So they have a lot of staff around to ask great questions to. The tourism center is just stunning. It looks to me like it would have been like an old stone cottage for some very rich person back in the day, but it's a stunning building, very accessible. Like Dan said, very walkable. The downtown core itself, takes no more than kind of a loop, the two main streets, and it would take you no more than 10 minutes to walk it.
And I don't recall that it was hard finding parking. Like, I don't think we had the same challenges there that we did in Banff.
No, goodness, no, not at all. We parked right around the corner from the Tourist Information Center, like within spitting distance. Yeah. And we stayed there all day.
Yep, so that was cool. Elk.
First, we have to talk. Isla will kill us if we don't talk about Cassio's.
Oh, yes, Cassio's. That was just a really good dinner, wasn't it?
It was still probably one of my favorite Italian meals we've ever had.
And I don't know if that was because it was COVID times and we were allowed to sit down in a restaurant and eat like restaurant people, but the food was great. It wasn't a chain restaurant. It was an authentic, run by a family type restaurant. Like, you're not going to find that restaurant anywhere else except in Jasper. The prices were reasonable. Everybody had a great meal. It was probably the highlight of the day, and Isla picked it out. She just decided we were having Italian that night.
Yeah, she wanted pasta. So we went into this, darkly lit. There's a lot of ambiance, like a lot of fake ivy hanging everywhere, and murals on the wall, and just fantastic wine, and clearly handmade pasta, and it was fantastic. So if you're in Jasper, big shout out to Cassio's Italian restaurant. It was awesome.
Yep.
So now let's talk about elk.
We saw a lot of elk. I think it's probably, and maybe that's because of the time of the day, but we saw most of them out in the evening at the side of the road.
Yeah.
And that was probably, we saw a lot more wildlife there than we did in Banff or anywhere else on the trip, quite honestly. Yeah. Even in Northern Ontario. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's lots of elk. But listen, let's keep your distance from the elk. Don't be a dummy and try and ride the elk. Like, they're big animals and you're not going to win.
Yeah, and they will get very aggressive and they are very fast. So, certainly pull over, roll down your window. I got some fantastic shots of the elk just with the zoom on my iPhone. Like, you don't need to get particularly close to get a great shot if you're looking for a photo, and then just kind of, slowly pull back over and be on your way. Like, I think there's a lot of gawkers when it comes to the elk, which, one, it's a traffic hazard, but two, just let them do their thing. Like, don't try to pet them and all will be well.
Exactly.
So things to do in Jasper. Obviously, similar to Banff, it's kind of an outdoor person's paradise, right? You're going to have hiking, biking, water sports, fishing, all of the typical winter sports if you're there in the winter. I would say, a list of top things to do if you only have a few days in the area. Obviously, go check out the Jasper Park Lodge, which is the CP Rail Hotel in Jasper. Just an iconic building. Right near the Jasper Park Lodge is the Jasper Planetarium, and they do dark sky telescope tours. And then again, with the amazing scenery and mountain ranges that surround Jasper, if you're into a good hike, I would suggest Malign Canyon. It's a spectacular gorge. There's some great waterfalls. Malign Lake and Spirit Island. There are boat cruises to the island. And I didn't realize this at the time, but Spirit Island is actually quite famous. There has been an image of it hung in Grand Central Terminal in New York City. Apple used it on their 2014 iPad to showcase the camera capabilities of their new iPad. Obviously, it's a very important spiritual place for the Stoney Nakoda First Nation. And they believe that the mountains that surround the island are the physical representations of their ancestors. It's actually located in a box canyon. The fact that Spirit Island is surrounded on 3 sides by the same mountain range is actually apparently quite rare, and it makes it particularly significant, obviously, to the Stoney Nakoda. It's actually only accessible by boat, and it's 14 kilometers from the access point. So even if you're paddling, that's going to be a couple of hour paddle one way. So most people take the limited boat tours that they do offer. One quote I came across when I was making my notes for this episode was from European explorer artist Mary Schaefer. And she was actually the first European to see Malign Lake in 1908. And she never mentioned the island, but she called the box canyon where it sits the Hall of Gods. And I found this quote to be particularly apt in where she said, "If Lake Louise is a pearl, Malign is the entire pearl necklace." So, you know, if you've seen all of those pictures of Lake Louise being the most photographed lake in the world, you know, just picture Malign Lake, because it's that times 10. Other mountains around there, Mount Edith Cavell, you can hike the summit. There's actually a really great alpine meadow at the base if you're not into going up the summit, or you don't have the stamina, or you just want to look around. There's a great meadow at the bottom that you can kind of wander through. The Jasper Tramway, which is basically like the little gondola that goes up Jasper, that overlooks Jasper, I should say. The tramway will take you up, but you are still, you know, fairly far from the summit. I would say if you're going up there, you probably want to allow at least 2 hours plus to reach the summit if you want to go up that far. It's very glacial. Like there's no trees up there.
It's not that there's no trees up there because somebody cut them down. It's because there's no trees up there, and that's the natural landscape, and that's what makes it really cool. You think glacial, I thought kind of the moon, but not in a bad way. Like it's like really big pieces of gravel. I don't know how to describe it. It was cool, and I'm glad we did it. But absolutely, what you said, you know, if you want to keep walking up further, don't save it till like 3:00 in the afternoon,
which is what we did. We got up there, and I think there was an hour before the tramway closed, and like literally you're out of luck. It will stop running and you're walking down. So we actually did not make the summit. I would say we got like halfway between the tramway and the summit, but we were just absolutely done. Like if you had waved $1 million in front of my nose, I probably couldn't have done it, just because I was still beat from the tea houses.
And I'm okay with that. Like I did the tea house challenge, people. I went to both tea houses, and I'm not going to take guff from anybody out there about it. So I'm glad we went up there. Give yourself lots of time if you want to go all the way to the end. You definitely don't want to miss the tram to the bottom, because I don't know how you're going to get to the bottom if they've shut down for the day. They were shooting a music video up there, which was kind of cool, and it didn't kind of infringe on the enjoyment, and it's a great spot to take pictures from.
Yeah.
If you want to take pictures in basically a 360 degree direction and look right down on the town, you can do it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was nice to see, or it was a great vantage point to see the kind of the layout of the town and how it's all oriented around the train station, like Dan mentioned earlier. And we were actually on our ride down on the tramway. I remember us looking down and trying to figure out, like, okay, if you were actually stuck here, then how would you get down? Like, would you just follow the tramway? Like, there's no easy way to get down.
No,
put it that way.
You're going to be euchred. And I kind of just had this thought now while we're recording this, so I don't want to get in trouble with Melina for going off script here, but it might actually be cool to do that at the beginning of your trip to Jasper, because then you have that bird's eye view of the whole place, and then go down and see everything when you're down there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. One word to the wise: if heights bother you, or you feel unsafe on a cable car, like that's one of those cable cars where like halfway through you get a big dip, like a kind of a swing in the middle halfway up. So just beware. If that's something that makes you anxious, you might be better knowing that before you get on.
Listen, Isla and I are not fans of heights, and we made out just fine. So suck it up.
That's because you knew you were getting Italian food.
I suppose that's true too, but it was fine.
So overall opinion, how long do you think, or how short a time can you do Jasper in? We were there for 2 days, and I feel that was kind of short.
Can we back up to the gondola for a second?
Mm-hmm.
So this was really cool. All of the people that worked on going up and down the gondola were from Australia. And so the side conversations when we were going up and down was how they were going to finish working at the gondola in the summer and then flip over to the ski resort in the winter. And so that was really cool, really global. Well, maybe I'm overstating it. Just cool to see people from other places and hear their stories and what they were doing and coming to Canada. So that was awesome.
Yeah. So in terms of how long you need or how short a time you can see Jasper in, I would say we were there like 2-3 nights, which is like the bare minimum, I would say. Like, I think, do you need to be there for 7 days? Probably not. You can get a good idea of what the area is about and do some great attractions, in that 3 to 5 day mark. But certainly I think, no less than 2 to 3 days at minimum.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I'd be happy to go there, spend a couple days, see some sights, just hang out in the campsite, read a book and have a drink and chill, and then maybe go back at it a little bit more for a couple more days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Mount Robson.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So another thing I will mention, because it really was a great add-on, I think, to our trip, just to say that we also hit BC. We packed a great picnic lunch. We drove the 30 minutes to Mount Robson Provincial Park border, and we had a great picnic at a place called the Portal Lake Rest Area. So it's a great rest area. There are outhouses there. There's a couple of picnic tables, a lovely lake called Portal Lake, obviously, and there's a loop hike right at the rest area, which was really great. A nice way to stretch our legs.
Yeah, I think there was a little pond there. There was a loop hike, but it took us, maybe 20, 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it's really clean. This is like an old style rest stop for young people like me that grew up in the 80s before they had like Tim Hortons on every corner and, drive through McDonald's and everything. This is where you went because you couldn't just buy really cheap takeout food and your mom would make a really good picnic. And that's what we did. We literally drove there just for the 2 purposes. One, to have a really good picnic, because Melina made this really good homemade bean salad with whatever was kicking around in the trailer. Mm-hmm. And I think you've tried to recreate it a couple of times at home, and it's been really good. And we checked the box off to say we went to BC.
Yeah. Yeah. No, fantastic place to stay. That's also the location of the Yellowhead Pass National Historic Site. And there's a big plaque there that just kind of explains the historical significance of the pass and the railway and all that kind of stuff. So it's a great place to visit for a few hours.
And it's a natural transition of geography. So if you can picture yourself standing in Jasper and you go to the top of the gondola, you're at the top of a mountain and it's glacial or it's the top of the moon, but whatever it is, that's one type of geography. If you head towards Edmonton, it's not long before you're kind of back into the start of the prairies. And if you literally just go another 15 minutes down to this rest stop in BC, you're kind of into the mountains and trees on the forest. It's a juncture of like 3 different types of geography. So
speaking of prairies, from Jasper, we went kind of northeast again, past Edmonton area, out towards Lloydminster. We spent the night in Lloydminster and then we continued on through Saskatchewan again. I did have to stop for work again in Saskatoon. So we actually stayed at Pike Lake Provincial Park in Saskatchewan, which actually ended up being a really great provincial park. So we'll talk about that on a future episode.
Yeah, the girls and I had a blast. I mean, sorry, you were at work, but we had a really good time. I'll have to tell you about the like $3 or $4 breakfast we got at the concession stand and riding bikes around. It was a really good time there.
Yeah. And on that cliffhanger, we will end it there. Thank you so much for joining us again, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.